people that listen to our podcast, you know what they want to hear? They want to hear 4 fucking grizzly bears getting down on some bullshit. That's what they want to hear.
Welcome to the Drivers Project podcast, featuring hosts Dominic Selzy, JJ Hickle, Sam Hafertepe Jr., and myself, Daryl Turford.
The Drivers Project podcast is brought to you by Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. Be wiser, by Kaiser.
We're back with another Drivers Project podcast presented by Kaiser Wheels, and we have a little bit of a different look today. A lot of the guys post-Knoxville had trouble getting scheduled. Dom's probably going to only be on next week, and then he probably won't be on for a month. So we brought Chase Raudman in, and you might have thought I brought Chase Raudman in because he's a high-limited announcer, but I actually did it a lot more based on his YouTube page. I really like people that don't give surface answers, guys that actually look into the numbers, look into their research, and I think we're going to probably really appreciate having you on this pod. Chase, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to talking about some stuff here. I watch your guys' show pretty much every episode, so I'm no Dominic, I'm no JJ Hickle, but I guess we'll sub in for the week. Appreciate it.
The other guy we have is Sam Hafertepe Jr. Sam, we just got done running the Nationals. Could you take us through your Nationals?
We had a lot of speed at 360s, just nothing to show for it at the end of the day. Didn't put enough fuel in the B main. We didn't get out of the heat. Had quick time. Didn't get out of the heat. Missed that by 1 behind Austin McCarl, and then was dominating the B and ran out of fuel with 1 to go, and we didn't finish. And then ultimately that put us mired back in the back of the B. I think we started like 15th and got up to 6th. We had a pretty good race car there and just ran out of time. And unfortunate because I really thought we had something for those guys. I feel like if we would have got out of that B, we'd have got up through the field pretty good and been set pretty good in points. But, that didn't happen, and we moved on to the 410 deal. I think that our 410 deal obviously was lacking quite a bit just because it's been since, March or April that we ran anything seriously with the 410. So that really hampered us a little bit, but we turned in a 6th place run on our prelim night from 10th, which I was really happy about that to run with some good caliber guys and show that we kind of belonged in that mix. And then come Saturday, we just totally missed it for the B. We were starting 7th and fell back to like 13th or 14th. It wasn't ideal, but the track just changed so much from what we saw on our prelim night, and I don't feel like we were ready for that. We missed the call there and ended our Nationals early.
So the start of the 410 Nationals, Ryan Tims went out and just flat out dominated. Now, Dom and I were doing podcasts the next day, and Dom felt like Tims was for real, but it didn't seem like a lot of other people thought Tims was for real. Chase, why do you think we didn't take the warning from Ryan Tims on the first night?
I'm not sure why. I to be honest, I didn't get to watch your guys' stuff when I was actually at Knoxville, so it was kind of hard to keep up with everything going on. But, Ryan was obviously, he's been one of the best cars at Knoxville all year, but I feel like it's, we've seen Brian Brown be the best at Knoxville all year several times, and he'll run well at the Nationals or he'll have a problem or whatever. But, until you win it, I feel like we can't really, take him seriously, I guess, because he's just had so much bad luck. He's been so close so many times. But Ryan, I don't know. He's just super young, I feel like. This is a race that I feel like we see not regional touring cars win. We usually see an outlaw guy or a high limit guy now win it, or if it's Kyle Larson, he wins it. I can't remember the last time a national touring driver didn't win. I mean, it has to have been over 10, 15 years. So I feel like maybe that's the reason why you would think, okay, hey, he won the prelim night, but, Saturday is a whole different animal. He's got the best 24 cars in the country behind him, and 50 laps at Knoxville is a long time, and that track is one of the most technical to get around. So, you can't blame people for not taking Ryan Tims seriously, even though, he went 8th to 1st in the feature and was running 2nd by lap 2. So, I feel like those are some of the reasons why, you wouldn't take him seriously. But obviously, if you weren't, you would probably regret it now.
Sam, I know you felt like he would probably lead early, or him and Masita would be dueling for the lead early, but you felt over the 50 laps he probably wouldn't hold on. Why do you think he was able to just, to be quite honest, to use your word, massacrate the field?
Yeah, traditionally a guy like him, being his first A main start, that's major for any guy to be on the pole, in their first A main start. Usually first A main start's not on the pole, and so I feel like, for anybody to, like I say, doubt them to win that race, definitely have a good reason to. But I honestly think what worked for them really well, if you've seen a lot of the races that they won throughout the year, he was able, like the biggest thing he's always been able to do all year when they've been super, super fast is he's been able to keep a lot of speed up. Like even if he's not just blazing around the top, he's able to keep enough speed up across the middle to where even off the exit, he has a lot of speed. But the one thing I thought that was really crazy about their deal was I thought the track was tailor-made for Ryan Tims in that situation. I think it was tailor-made for their race car in that situation. I think they executed about every facet of that race as good as you can. Ryan Tims drove a phenomenal race. Maybe almost hit one lap guy one time. I mean, that was the only close call that I saw. And what was really crazy about it to me is he wasn't just winning this race. He was driving away every time. And that never happens at Nationals. Like even the years where, Donny's been the guy, he's not driving away 4 or 5 seconds ahead of the field. He's not doing that. No guys do that, especially this day and age. These guys won't get out further than a second on you. And he was able just to keep pressing and pressing and pressing. And I mean, maybe that shows his age as being young. And luckily it didn't bite him to press that hard. But I mean, it was unbelievable to watch an 18-year-old kid dominate a field of veterans the way that he did. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again.
Chase, one of the reasons I don't think people took him seriously was actually something I saw in your video. We're talking about a kid that, while he was viewed as an up-and-comer, he was viewed as, I don't know if prodigy is the right word, he had only had 10 national top 5 finishes before this Nationals. Do you think we'll ever see numbers like that again? I mean, I know you go through numbers, but that's an insane number to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I don't think we'll ever see it again, to be honest. I mean, I think it was just a great combination of Ryan is a more than capable driver, but whatever they're doing with that car, man. I watched a couple interviews with Shane Liebig. I think the Knoxville Knights guy, like Blake Walker, the guy, the 360 announcer at Knoxville, they interviewed him after, and he's saying that they've got a bunch of stuff that, they're running a bunch of stuff that nobody else is running, and whatever it is, it's working. I mean, that car just, I'm not taking anything away from Ryan, but I mean, the car was just stuck every single corner, every single lap, didn't put a wheel out of place. And I think that's obviously a big deal. You got to have a really good car to win at that race. And obviously you got to have a driver that can control it as well. And we saw him do that very well. But I don't think we'll see anything like that happen ever again. This, like Sam said, was in this day and age. I mean, you don't see guys drive out to 4 and 5 second leads. I don't remember Larson. I mean, I was there for the last couple Nationals. I don't remember Larson driving out to a 4 second lead when he was, leading all 50 laps. But I mean, just an incredible performance. I was kind of upset. I'm like, man, the guy won. He led all 50 laps again. But like, then you're sitting back, you're like, man, we're probably never going to forget the night that Ryan Tims just smoked the whole country at 18 years old with a regional base car at the Knoxville Nationals. And with like 5 laps to go, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm not upset that he just led all 50 laps. Like, if Larson would have went out there and led all 50 laps again, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, let somebody else at least pass you for 1 lap. But, it was cool to see Ryan be able to do that.
So I just thought of this question on the spot. While we were watching the race, there was a kid that asked Sam and I after the break, well, who do you think's going to win? And Sam answered, well, it's pretty obvious right now who's going to win. It's Tims. At what lap did you realize? I mean, either guy fire away with the answer. At what lap did you realize this wasn't pretend and this was going to be 50 laps of domination?
I would say like after, I think there was a yellow. Was there a yellow in the first half or no? I can't remember.
I'm
But
trying to think of one, and I can't off the top.
I don't think so. No, there was not a yellow in the first half.
Yeah, so I think after the when they had the halfway stop and he still pulled away by a straightaway within 2 laps, I was like, okay, the only way he's losing this race is if he screws it up himself or a lap car holds him up or something. Like, okay, off the initial start, okay, like everybody else is kind of just waiting to get to the halfway point, maybe riding around, trying to get in the top 5 and set themselves up for the second 25, and maybe he's out there just going balls to the wall. But when the second 25 started, he pulled out to that big of a lead that quickly. I was like, I mean, it's going to be extremely tough to beat. I feel like even Gravel, if Gravel would have started second in this race, I still think Tims would have still won this race. I don't know if it's hard to say though, because you line up next to David Gravel with, half of a Knoxville Nationals left to go. The nerves might get to you, right? But I just feel like his car was so good. It would have been tough for anybody if they started up there in the first 3 spots on that halfway break restart, if they would have caught him. So I think after halfway, once he pulled out to the lead, I thought it was pretty much a sealed deal.
Well, we were going to talk about Gravel's race later. I was going to ask you guys, did he have enough to beat Tims? Because one thing I noticed, and I don't know if most people caught this, Gravel made a charge, but at one point, he was 1 car from being lapped. There was 1 car between him and Ryan Tims from being lapped. And I think when Sam, Allison, and I pointed it out to you, what lap did you say he was still 20th? It was like lap 14th. He was still in 20th or something like that?
Yeah, I went and looked it back up. He rode 20th all the way to lap 14.
Yeah. So that makes that charge even more impressive to me, is like they were not good and then got really good. So we're going to go back to the first night, and I don't think we can possibly walk around this. Is David Gravel has his heat race crash. Sam and I have kind of talked about it on on the post-race pods. Chase, a lot of people, I thought that would be pretty cut and dry that was on Sheerburgg, or at least not Gravel's fault. And fans didn't seem to see it that way at all. It seemed a lot more like 70-30. Gravel put Sheerburgg in a terrible spot. What was your take on that crash?
Well, I was, it's hard to see. I was on the backstretch grandstands all week, so it was really tough to see from there, the right angle. But after looking at the replay and stuff, I guess you could place more blame on Hunter than you can David. But, I mean, I feel like everybody's placing the blame on David with, what's going on in sprint car racing right now. David Gravel could be, all by himself on the track and somebody spins out behind him and it's his fault. Like he's the boogeyman right now in sprint car racing. So I feel like that's why you might have seen that from all the fans. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like another thing about it too was like, it's an 8-lap heat race, 10-lap heat race with an 8-car invert. And I think Gravel knows that he's got to go and he's got to go right now. But I think that was kind of a case where maybe get through the first 2 corners, let everybody kind of, figure things out down the backstretch and then get going. But I think that, sometimes even the Chili Bowl, we see it, a guy will get a little bit too rambunctious on the start and wads it up in the first corner. I guess Gravel could have maybe waited a corner or 2, but, that was definitely one of the more, wild moments of the Nationals when Gravel goes, pounding to the outside wall. So I don't know who to blame it on. I guess Sheerburgg would have if you put a percentage on it, I would say he'd get a little bit more, but also at the same time, I think David, after winning a Nationals and running up front so many times, maybe think okay, I've got 10 laps. I don't need to win this thing on the first corner. You know what I'm saying?
Sam, you've obviously said your piece before. Do you have anything you've added to add in retrospect, or?
Yeah, I don't really feel like it's either guy's fault, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to get across, is it doesn't have to be a guy's fault.
Yeah, I really thought that, I don't think Hunter was going in there trying to run up the side of Gravel. I think he went in there, I think he got really tight and he got bottled up on the bottom, and I think he wanted to probably go to the middle to kind of get off the bottom to get, unbottled, and, Gravel will just kind of squeeze the bottom guys, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't think Hunter thought he was going to come down. I think Hunter thought he's got a wide open top. Why doesn't he just run the top? Which, after you look at the video, it's hindsight now. But if you were Gravel, you're like, man, I should have just ran the top. I'd have blew around like 2 or 3 guys right in that corner. And as for the Nationals, like even a guy like Gravel, I sometimes think those guys don't realize how much faster they are than a lot of other guys sometimes. And it's easy to do. And I don't think they realize they have as much time as they have sometimes. And I think, and I don't blame him. I think he did right by trying to press. I think he would do it over the same way he tried to do it there. I just think, situations happened and it got the best of both of them.
I think people are really hindsight 2020ing this wreck. You watch the guys that are in the same position as Gravel, all the outside cars in that heat race, they all did the same thing. Like the logical thing was to run through that middle because it's so far around on the top. Now the top became an option because they all did it, but Gravel wasn't doing anything that the guys on the outside rows in front of him weren't doing. It just worked out really shitty.
Yeah, for sure.
The other big wreck we had that really, I think, scared a lot of people was the Saints-McFadden crash. I mean, you always hear about people going for it on the for the final transfer and it coming down to something like that. And man, that's about as bad as it gets. Chase, what do you see in that?
Well, that was another one for the backstretch. Just didn't. I got a good view of Brian Brown's wreck now. Let me tell you, but
we'll get to that.
I did not get a very good look at Cy Lynch's wreck, but I did see, obviously the replays on the big screens from the infield and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that was a extremely hard hit. That one I felt like more like, I mean, both these guys are driving their tails off, just trying to get to that line before the other one. Cy on the top, McFadden on the bottom. McFadden gets a good, he really nailed the bottom off 4, and it kind of turned it seemed like it kind of almost cranked the front end to the right, like as Cy was coming down the hill a little bit there, and they kind of just met in the middle, and Cy obviously got the worst end of that deal, which really sucked because Cy's had a tough year with us with high limit, and I think that if he would have made that transfer, I'm not saying it would have fixed his whole year, but it certainly would have been a lot better going to the West Coast here to have made that feature, and he was going to be looking good too because he qualified well, if I remember right, so yeah, that was a really hard hit. McFadden obviously was able to get back across the line and run 4th, but that one definitely, I don't think there was anybody, to me, it looked like there was nobody's fault there. It was just 2 guys just trying to get there before the other. McFadden got a good bite off the bottom, and Cy kind of maybe came down a little bit off the top, and, they met right there in the middle. So that's what I say about it.
Yeah, Sam, you'd actually been really, really impressed with Cy's car that night leading up to that crash. Can you kind of talk about what those guys are dealing with off of 4? Like Chase was talking about McFadden there. Looked like he had a lot of left rear drive and might have been like left rear tight. Could you kind of talk about what those guys are trying to do as they exit the corner there?
Yeah, I think Cy, his situation, I think he knew that he had to hold off McFadden. Like he felt pressure. It was obvious that he was feeling that pressure. And I feel like, when he blew across there in 3 and 4, like I don't think he got across the way he wanted to, and he knew he didn't. So he tried to come down off of 4. But he's trying to catch up to the race car at that point. Like he's not got the grip that he thought he was going to have blowing across there, and it didn't latch up as good as he wanted to off the exit. So now he's pointing down the track, which is what he should do. He's trying to protect. And I don't think he thought McFadden probably got such a good run off of 4, I don't think McFadden would have thought that the car was going to react the way it did either. When he's spooled up, ripping off the bottom there, and when he hits that patch of moisture, say you're hanging a little bit. Well, as soon as you hit that patch of moisture, I mean, left rear drives hard, shoves the front end up on you, and you're turning left. And like I say, I think Chase is spot on. Like I don't really see fault in it. I mean, yeah, I think Cy's coming down to protect a little bit, as he probably should, and as 90% of other guys would. And, McFadden's coming up off the bottom because he's got that hellacious drive off of 4. So I think McFadden was pretty apologetic in his post race, interview, but I really don't feel like he has a lot to apologize for. And same way with Cy, I don't think either guy was majorly at fault there.
So we talked about two negative parts of the Nationals, but certainly the probably the coolest part of night one at the Nationals was the performance of Fast Jack Anderson. Chase, what was your take? I'm guessing that's the first time you've seen Jack Anderson really running up front.
Yeah, I pay attention to Knoxville. I would say pretty decently throughout the year, so I'd seen his name pop up. Obviously, I knew his dad, John Anderson. I think that was his dad, right? Number one car, I believe. Yeah. And the only what I remember from him was like
John Anderson. John Anderson is a current competitor. He's not related to him. His dad was Johnny Anderson, a yellow 7A.
Oh, okay. So that John Anderson was a different guy. I was going to say, like, this John Anderson I knew was like always like a Group 12 guy in the Knoxville pool that like, should I take him this year? Probably not. But so Jack Anderson, yeah. I mean, my buddy, and coworker Anthony Carini has been telling us all year, like, Jack Anderson, watch this guy, like, he's going to be fast. I picked him at the 360 Nationals in the Corey Nisha pool. He didn't do well in the 360 Nationals pool. I also picked Sam in the 360 Nationals pool. That hurt a little bit. But Jack Anderson, I had him there, and it didn't go well. But then in the 410s, I picked him again. And, he was just – I mean, this guy is going to make the Nationals. I don't know if it's next year or the year after. When it's going to happen. I mean, he is quick. And you look at that car, and you would think there's just no way. Like, it doesn't look like a car that would be an A-main car at the Knoxville Nationals. But boy, it gets around the bottom really good. He certainly got his nickname correct. I mean, Fast Jack. He was fast all weekend long, I felt like. And then, man, it sucked to see it end in the B main on Saturday with. And like I said, I was in the grandstand. It's hard to know. I heard no brakes or something, so that was a really tough way to end it. He was running 5th or 6th, I think, and he was in the mix for a transfer spot. And I think that place would have went crazy if he would have made it happen, because I'm sure there was a lot of people that did not know who that guy was going into that weekend, and now they do. It was definitely a very cool, very cool run for him to have throughout the entire week.
Sam, you obviously didn't get to see him much. You were generally racing against him. In that B main, though, that was a pretty tricky track. Can you talk about how impressive it is that he hung in there? Like, I really do think he transfers with brakes. Just going back and watching the B main.
Yeah, I think honestly, a lot of people don't realize how little experience he has with the 410 around there either. So that's the thing to me that really, really woke me up, was how fast he was. And in recent weeks, he'd been getting faster. I think he had a quick time a couple weeks before this, I believe. Yeah. So like the writing was on the wall. Like the amount that team accelerated with speed throughout the year, from where they started to where they were today, was unbelievable. And I think, a lot of it's because of him. I think his learning curve was, I don't know how it accelerated so fast, but, obviously he figured some stuff out a lot quicker than most guys do. And it was really impressive to see that. Obviously it's unfortunate that, he got called out in the B under yellow or red, that he had no brakes, but that track was really tough. Like the bottom was really meated up, but the section where it was meated up was real narrow. And then the middle was the slickest I'd seen it. And then the top was super heavy. So like for a guy to navigate through that with the experience that he does have and no brakes, definitely a testament to, the speed that he's going to have going forward for sure.
Yeah, I just looked it up on my favorite website here, sprintcarratings.com. I didn't realize he only has 16 410 starts, and they were all this year. So, I mean, that's crazy to think that he was that close to putting it in the Nationals. I mean, first year in a 410, that's pretty cool.
And I even think he missed a couple of the first nights. But
yeah.
So we move on to night 2, and I don't think anyone was surprised when Kyle Larson dominated that race. Sam, did you have any takeaways watching him win that race?
Yeah, I didn't think it was the Larson we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years before. I felt like they were a little off all week. night 2, I was expecting him to go out and lay a little bit better lap than he did in qualifying. The heat race, I felt like we were going to see a 6th to 1st type deal, and we didn't see that. I'm not going to say he just edged in, but he didn't dominate the way I thought he was going to dominate. And then in the feature, I mean, I know you wrote down here that he dominated night 2, but I don't really feel like he dominated night 2. I mean, he won night 2 for sure, but I feel like a Larson we've seen the last couple of years here would have obliterated that field all through the night, and they just didn't really have their stuff all week, to be honest. I felt like they were just a little bit off here and there. Definitely not what we're accustomed to seeing out of him. I mean, clearly he still won, night 2, but it wasn't in the fashion that he would normally win that race.
Yeah, I still just felt it was inevitable. Like when he got to 2nd or 3rd, I didn't see him like going through a corner and murdering them in any one specific place, but it was just like, this is inevitable. There was just an inevitability to it. Chase, what do you see?
Yeah, I think Sam's right. I mean, I thought when he started 6th in the heat race, he was going to win it. I don't remember who was in it, but I mean, it's Kyle Larson, and he's starting 6th in a Knoxville Nationals heat race with how dominant he's been the last couple of years. I was pretty surprised that he didn't win that. The other thing that really stood out to me was definitely the qualifying. I mean, he was like the 5th to last car out, I think. And when he went 15th quick, I was like, okay, I guess we're not going to see him lead all 50 laps this year. Like, there's just no way you're going to qualify 15th and be on the pole of the Nationals, So, that was something that really stood out to me early in the night on his prelim. He went 15th quick, and I was just like, okay, we're going to see somebody else on the pole of the Nationals for the first time in a few years. So, but then in the feature, I mean, he just kind of did Kyle Larson things. To me, I think I put it in my YouTube video after, I thought Schuhart looked a little bit more dynamic. His car looked like it could move around a little bit better and was able to maintain the pace of Kyle. It's just I don't think he got off to a very good start in the feature and was kind of having to catch up to him later on. But to me, when I was watching that race, I was like, okay, Schuhart looks like he has a better race car right now. And he obviously knows how to get around that place pretty well too. So those were my kind of takeaways. It was good to see Bayston lead some laps there as well. He needed something like that to go right for him. So that was cool to see him end up on the podium. Yeah, Kyle, what's that, 2 years in a row now, I think, that he's won Thursday night. So I guess it wasn't a big surprise.
Yeah, I think Schuhart was one that I don't know if Sam and I got across enough. Sam and I expected big things from Schuhart in this Nationals. I did think he looked awesome on Thursday. My prediction once we got to the Nationals was he would run 2nd to Larson. I thought he was doing everything he needed to do to give himself a chance to win the Nationals, and then just one time he hopped the curb, and a lot of guys hop the curb in 3 and 4, but he hopped it really bad, and it dropped him to like 7th, and then he was just not the same after that. I don't know if it was dirty air or what, but he just didn't seem to really have it after that. Sam, I know you definitely paid attention to Schuhart. What were your thoughts on his Nationals?
Oh, I picked him to win on Saturday night. I thought, I think a different racetrack, I think he does have a chance to win that. I think that track, big curb, heavy bottom, probably not what, the Shark Racing team draws up. It's just not their thing. I don't think that's the type of track they wanted in that situation. The tracks that he's came from way deep to run in the top 5 at, they're a little slicker, a little thinner top, a little thinner bottom, probably a little more methodical approach to them. That deal was, hammer down, let's ride her out for 50. And I'm not saying Schuhart can't do that, but that isn't their normal go-to style. But I thought, like Chase said, I felt like he looked a lot better than Larson did on the prelim, and I felt like that's the reason I picked him to win Saturday night.
I did want to give a shout out to Derek Hagar. I was just looking at the results and forgot that he led like 3 laps of that thing and ended up 9th. I thought that was awesome. And then I went to 3 and 4 after the race, and he was sitting on his golf cart watching the replay, and he's like, dude, I felt like we just freaking won. Like that was really cool to see him lead some laps of that thing.
Yeah, we talked about him on our post-race show too. Sam races with Derek a lot. And Derek's usual deal, we'll have Sam elaborate on it, is he's like a short track guy completely, and really, really good in the slick. I wouldn't even... he's still good when it's tacky, but I don't feel like he's the guy you gotta really beat in the tacky on a tacky short track, but he's still like very damn good. Sam, you talked about it already on our other show, but I mean, I don't think Derek Hagar gets enough credit, so I got no problem talking about him again. Can you just...
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the guys, when you put a 360 cubic inch motor in his car and they go to some of these, like, obviously West Memphis is his home track, and I mean, that place gets slick. I mean, there's nobody even in his zip code. He's pretty unstoppable out there, and he's not a one-dimensional guy. Like, he can run in heavy, he can run in everything. I mean, slick is definitely his game. It's where he is definitely better, but I think he can win just about in every situation. But to see him come to Knoxville in a 410 and to run as good as they did, this is definitely something to hold their head high about.
Yeah, and like that car's raced Knoxville a lot of times. It has not been close to 9th or the pole of the prelim.
No, for sure. That's the best that car's ever looked.
And he was very around us in points. So Sam and I were watching him, and 1 to 9 doesn't normally look impressive, but I felt like he did about everything he could to run 9th too. So yeah, I just wanted to give him another shout out once you said that, Chase, because that's a guy we race a lot that I don't think people realize how good he is. And then we got to go to what you alluded to earlier, Chase. Sam and I have talked about it. We released I think a 15-minute clip on it, so we've kind of said our piece. You said you got a great view of it. What did you see in the Brian Brown, JJ Hickle incident?
Well, I saw Brian Brown absolutely hammer the wall, and it scared the shit out of me sitting right there. I thought he was some parts were going to fly into the grandstands or something. I mean, it was massive. But it kind of felt like, I don't want to say it was brewing for a few laps, but like it was almost like the same as like on replay every lap. Like JJ would like miss the bottom and he'd kind of float the middle, and Brian would have a big run. For like 2 laps in a row, he'd like kind of just follow him down the backstretch, and then one time he tried to, sneak around the outside, and it just didn't work. I don't think JJ was trying to wreck anybody at all, obviously. I mean, how is he going to wreck him when he's behind him? I mean, it's pretty hard to do that. You don't have any mirrors or spotters or anything, So I thought JJ got way too much crap on Twitter and Facebook, like everything, like David Gravel right now. But I thought JJ was just getting tore up on Facebook and whatnot for no reason. I mean, he is the car in front. The guy behind you is in charge to pass you. You're not supposed to let over and let him go by in a Knoxville Nationals heat race. So I thought what he said was definitely the right thing to say. It sucks for Brian Brown. Obviously, it looked like he was on his way to having a really good night, qualified well, and I think they were running for 4th, right? I mean, he was about to pass him for the transfer spot. So, I mean, if he would have made that pass, he would have been in a really good spot for Saturday. So that sucked to see, but I liked what JJ said. I really did, about how the guy behind me is the one that is supposed to pass me. I'm not supposed to let him go by. I thought that was a really good thing that he said there on the Dirt Vision broadcast, and I guess that's kind of my thoughts on it. Glad that Brian's all right. Obviously, broken wrist and a hand, I believe, is what the result was, but at least he's able to walk away and all that, because that car was, I mean, it was bad when it came to rest there, and it was right in front of us, and it was right when he stopped, we saw him moving around, so that was really good to see. But just a tough situation overall.
Sam, do you have any thoughts in retrospect now that you've had time to think about it? Probably people have reacted to what you've said. Do you have anything to add, or if you pretty much said your piece?
No, I mean, I think Chase is spot on with it. I mean, I don't view it any differently than I did at the time. I mean, you got to look at it from several different vantage points. Brown's going to be mad because now his Nationals is ruined, right? Whether it was his fault or whether he thought it was his fault or if he didn't think it was his fault, he's still going to be mad, because you got to think, he gets through that heat race, he's probably starting top 4 come Nationals time or come Saturday night. So he's thinking he has a legitimate shot, and he has a right to think he does, because shit, a couple weeks before he came from 16th to win the feature at a local show. So he was showing signs of speed at the right time, and I feel like for him it's a really big blow because they really thought they had a good opportunity to win. But as far as JJ, I think his interview was maybe received wrong by the audience, because, I mean, you got to face it. We're in Knoxville. It's Brian Brown's home track. Like, he's the guy there. These fans are not going to take that very nice, because JJ was mad too. Because they're pitted right next to each other. They're probably cussing them pretty hard. And I get it. You're at a race like that, tempers are going to flare, and like I say, I don't think it's JJ's fault. I don't even think it's a thing where you go, man, it's this guy's fault or it's that guy's fault. I think Brown took a chance. He knew it was going to be tough to get by JJ the way things were playing out. I mean, he'd almost run into the back of him 2 or 3 other times, and it happened. I mean, it's a shame that it did. We don't want to see any guys get hurt. Now Brown's out for at least 6 to 8 weeks or something. Maybe longer. It's unfortunate for everybody involved. I mean, and like they said, JJ to be getting all the hate that he was getting, I don't think that was precedented either.
Yeah, and like the one thing, like I just feel like everybody was saying that JJ was driving like erratically, like that if you would have just read the comments and not seen the incident, you would have thought he was running the slalom course down the straightaways and just running a diamond line on entry, diamond line on like. He ran the same line for like 4 laps in a row. Like his car was not very fast. It looked like he was just doing everything he could to hold the guy off. He'd hit the bottom on entry and could not hit the bottom on exit if it was his own ass. I mean, the thing just would not stick the bottom, and it was 4 laps in a row. And I mean, he did the same thing 4 laps in a row. It's not like he just all of a sudden decided I'm going straight to the fence. So I don't know. People are mean. That's for sure.
Well, we're going to get to that later. That's my talk shit. We're going to kind of go back to this for my talk shit. But once again, we're going to go back to something positive. Before the Thursday night show, Dom said that Cam Martin would be the fast Jack Anderson of Thursday night. And man, I don't think he could have been any more right. Chase, what do you think of that performance?
That was very impressive. I mean, I think maybe Jeremy Elliott mentioned it, but he qualified second, which set him up really good for the rest of the night, because he kind of, the heat race, he didn't pass anybody. And then the feature, all he needed to do was pass 6, 7 cars. Obviously he had to make it to the B, and he did that. But he passed 6, 7 cars, and that was enough to put him in. Not even the last guy, he was 15th out of 16. So that was very impressive. And I talked to Cam after the next day, maybe on Friday, because I needed a magnet for my whiteboard for my YouTube videos, and I asked him, hey, you got any wheel stickers or anything you could let me have? And we met up at the front gate, and he gave me a wheel sticker, and I was like, who's working on this thing? Because I thought that Lasowski was working on it, and he told me that Lasowski's working on Chris's car, and he's got Skylar Prohaska working on it. And Skylar is, he doesn't get to race that much, but when he does, I feel like he's very underrated. And I didn't realize he was obviously a pretty darn good crew chief too, to be able to, qualify that thing second and, make the Knoxville Nationals. I mean, that was impressive. And Cam just seems like, from the little experience I've talked to him, he just seems like a super humble guy and was just happy to be there, man, which was cool to see. I thought he was the best story of the obviously Ryan Tims is the big story, but I felt like the feel-good story of the week was Cam Martin. And then he goes on, he runs 13th, right? 13th in the A-Main. Like, that is unbelievable. And he finished all laps. I mean, what a hell of a week.
Yeah, I remember going into the B main, Sam was asking me, well, you don't think Cam will get out, do you? And Sam can tell you, I emphatically said Cam was getting out of that B. To back you up on the Skylar Prohaska thing, every now and then JJ will actually go on the road with the Martins, like to Volusia and stuff like that, before he starts racing. And he's been really impressed with Skylar Prohaska. As you said, he's underrated. I think he's made the last 2 360 Nationals racing like part-time. And then, yeah, JJ says he's a damn good mechanic. So that I think if you were a Knoxville regular, that wasn't as much of a surprise. Like going there every Saturday night and seeing Cam race, that was not a surprise to me. Like you can ask Sam, I emphatically said Cam was getting out of that B. And if you remember, that was a loaded B because people weren't getting out of the heat. Sam, do you have anything to add about Cam?
No, I was pretty amazed with him, and that's why I asked you in that B, well, you think he's going to get out? Because I didn't think he was going to get out, but man, he did a phenomenal job. I've seen he came and raced Belleville and was really good at Belleville when he raced there. He ran second to me the second night, really fast all weekend there. And and Prohaska, I just he's been around that team for a while now, and I don't feel like he's gotten a lot of credit for it, but I feel like he's done a really good job too. But Cam to run up to 13th in the feature Saturday, that's badass. I really thought, I feel like a lot of guys on his prelim night, could maybe hang around and get in the A from qualifying second if they did that, but he proved it wasn't a fluke in the feature Saturday night by rolling up to 13th. That was pretty impressive.
So on a disappointing note, or I don't know, disappointing is the wrong word. It was also Terry McCarl's last Nationals, and it obviously didn't go the way it went, but I've always associated Terry with the Knoxville Nationals. When I was a kid growing up, I always had the video of him and Donny Schatz going to war at the Nationals. I feel like Knoxville's really losing something with Terry no longer competing at the Nationals. He is going to still race 360s, but this is his last Knoxville Nationals. Sam, you know him pretty well. What are your thoughts on him no longer running Knoxville?
Man, it's tough, like to lose a guy like that. The type of personality he has. Not just we're not talking just about a race car driver. We're talking about probably has one of the biggest personalities in the pits. Just a cool guy. I've known him for a long time. Not to say we've been friends by any means, but known him a long time and always had a lot of respect for him. His dedication to this sport is unmatched. To help lead his boys into the sport as well. He's doing his due diligence for sprint car racing for sure, and I hate to see it be his last Nationals, but I think the time's right, and he knows it is too, and I think that he's done a phenomenal job. Trying to beat Father Time, right? I would have never guessed he was getting up there. I remember when I raced with him from earlier on that, Terry's not that old. I just always thought that, and then, time catches up with you. But I feel like he's one of those type of guys that has been, around Knoxville. There's not a lot of guys that you'd go, man, this guy represents Knoxville, and he's definitely one of them. You got Danny Lasowski, Terry McCarl, Brian Brown. That's kind of the list, and hopefully, he stays involved even when he quits racing totally, with more than just being a race car driver. I think he has so much to offer to the sport. So much knowledge, so many years of being around. I feel like he has a lot to offer, the Knoxville scene in general. Maybe be the next guy in line for John McCoy or something like that. I feel like he's one of those kind of guys that knows what sprint car racing needs, and he would be those kind of guys that could keep Knoxville going in the right direction.
Chase, do you have anything to add on Terry's last Nationals?
Yeah, I don't know Terry super well, but I've interviewed him a few times, and every time I've talked to him, he's just been always happy to talk, and that's really cool. And obviously, he's an icon, man. I watched him for a long time when he was on the Outlaw Tour and whatnot, and like you said, the dedication to Knoxville Raceway is impressive. He's had 3 cars out there on a weekly basis, pretty much for however long now, whether they're running 410s or 360s. You cannot deny his dedication to that racetrack. So it was definitely a sad announcement when that came out that he wasn't running the 410s anymore. But I'll tell you, man, he can still get after it in the 360. I think I don't know if he won a race there this year or not, but I mean, he made the 360 Nationals again last year. I think he was in the top 10 of the 360 Nationals. So he's still got that competitive drive, and he can still get it done in the 360 stuff. Which, like you said, at least he's not done all the way, just the 410s. But we'll still see him quite a bit. And Terry's an awesome guy, and like I said, I think he's an icon of definitely that racetrack, but in sprint car racing altogether. So. Yeah, you just got to admire what he's done for that track with getting those cars fielded every single week with his kids. So I think that's pretty awesome, and hopefully he keeps doing the 360 thing for a few more years.
Yeah, and speaking to his competitiveness, I think the Capitani is the hardest one-night show to make all year, and I mean he made it as recently as last year in basically a one-off deal, and I think Knoxville's going to miss it bad, and like Sam says, I'd really like to see him at some point become an integral part of Knoxville in an official or promoting capacity. One observation that I've never really heard, but I heard multiple times at this year's Nationals, and Ryan Tims in particular said this to a friend of mine, Bill W. from the Hall of Fame. A lot of people... for one, I hate the Knoxville weekly format. I feel like after time trials, your lineup's pretty much set. But one thing the Knoxville the weekly format does is it starts your quick timer 6th. And this year, I heard a lot of people say that they felt like the Knoxville format on the weekly show really, really helped these guys. Ryan Tims in particular, I guess, has been saying that. Sam, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the way the points are delivered there, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's a way a guy could look at the race. What do they draw, a 0, 4, 6, or 8 or something?
Yes, but in the heats, the quick timer goes to 6th.
So I'm talking about for the redraw for the feature.
Yes, after the heat races, they redraw 0, 2, 4, 6, 8.
So 0, 4, 6, 8. So I guess if you're looking at it that way, I mean, to me, I would just assume you've got to get out of your heat if you're quick time, and that's the way I would assume it. Now, a guy that would take it as he definitely wants to be that high point guy, I mean, it doesn't really do you any good to be the high point guy if you're quick time or second quick, third quick, whatever. It doesn't really do you any good to pass 5 or 6 cars in the heat race because, essentially they could draw the 8. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you're planning on trying to get out of that heat and that's your mindset, then yeah, for sure, it's setting these guys up great. Like to deal with the dirty air on a starting 6th on a heat race, that's a tough thing to do in a 410 race car is to get the 6th to the lead or 6th to second or something like that. That's really hard to do at Knoxville, especially with a bunch of weekly guys that run there every week. They have a little know-how to get around there. I could see where their thought process would be, but from an experience side of things, I would think that if you're 6th and you can get to 4th, great. If you pass and get to 5th, you're still set up pretty damn good the way the points work. You're still going to be in that redraw. So I don't know. I could see what direction they're coming from, and if your idea is okay, well, let's get as many as I can on this heat race, and yeah, great. But I don't think it does a whole lot for you.
Chase, do you have anything to add?
I might be exposing myself right now. I couldn't even begin to. I don't even know what the Knoxville weekly format is.
Here's the important thing you need to understand. They reward so many points in time trials that it leads to very little movement in the heat. So, for example, 2 years ago, Sam timed in second quick on a Knoxville weekly show. We broke and didn't finish the heat. We still had enough points that Sam was in the top 8 redraw, even with not finishing the heat.
Yeah,
because he timed in second. So that's
usually I turn on the feature. So I turn the feature on and I have no idea how they got there.
So this is why Sam's saying it's not vital to get through the heat. Like once you've laid down that lap, as long Sam literally broke and made the redraw. So That's kind of what we're saying. So Tims is saying he basically used it as like practice to go from 6th, whereas Sam's saying if you used it for practice, it's probably a good idea, but you didn't need to. So moving to Friday night now, I think the least surprising feature win of the Nationals was David Gravel winning Hard Knocks night. I think everyone had him pretty penciled in. The other 3 drivers to get out, though, were Buddy Kofoid, Cole Macedo, and Darren Pitman. I'll just start with you, Chase. Pick a guy that you thought impressed you out of those 4, or you just had thoughts on.
It's hard for me to pick one of those guys. 2 of them, to me, stand out, and that's Buddy and Pitman. When Pitman ran that car for the Outlaw shows this year, I mean, they weren't even close. I mean, they weren't even in the right area code. And so when they came to the Nationals, I thought that, I didn't think they were going to be even in the C main with how they ran earlier this year. But that just goes to show how good Darren Pitman still is. I mean, he just made the show and he races 6 times a year. Last year he was on the front row. Obviously, that was in the 69K. But that Lunstra 3, he got it right, go in the right direction. I don't know who was working on it or whatever, but I was very impressed with what he was able to put together this week. I'm a big Darren Pitman fan, and so when he made the show, I thought that was awesome. And then the other guy, Kofoid, I was not impressed with him all the way throughout the week until that feature. Like, even that day, earlier on in that day, I thought, he's not making it. He's not. And then in the feature, he just figured it out. But 19th to 2nd, I think.
Yes.
But before that, I thought there's no way Buddy Kofoid's making the Knoxville Nationals main event. But whatever they did for that feature, man, it worked, and he was fast. So it was cool to see Cole Macedo make the show for the first time. I think there's 4 guys that made their first ever main event, so that was cool. But Cole Macedo, I wasn't really surprised by that one. I thought that Wayne Johnson always got around Knoxville really well in that car. And then Cole was solid in the Tarleton car, and then he ran the Dietz car a few years ago as well, and he always got around pretty solid with limited laps. So that one wasn't too surprising to me, but Kofoid 19th to 2nd and Pitman in the 3 car, after how bad they were earlier this year, those were the 2 surprises out of those 4 guys you mentioned there.
First of all, I believe it was Lethal Lee was actually working on the Pitman car, and I was with you, Chase. I was there in the earlier races they ran, and he wasn't even close. Sam is having some little kid issues there, so we'll continue with it. We were talking about Darren Pitman and Lethal Lee. Like I say, they really did struggle. I don't think Lee was there in the spring, but they really did struggle at the Outlaw shows. And it seemed like every time they rolled off the trailer, they did have some level of speed. I want to say he just missed it on his prelim night by a spot or 2.
Yeah, I don't know what they did different. Like you said, I mean, if Lee was working on that thing, that would make some sense as to why they got it figured out. But it's crazy to see the turnaround. I mean, it is crazy to see what a crew chief can do from one weekend of racing when they're going against a 65, 70 car field to the next against a 100 car field, how quickly a good crew chief can turn a car around. Because, like I said, going into this week, I don't know if many people had Darren Pitman on their list to be a part of the A-Main.
Sam, what were your thoughts and takeaways on the 4 guys who transferred through Hard Knocks?
I thought with Kofoid, the way they were so bad every time they hit the racetrack early on, like I thought he was going to be dynamite. The way they ran, I think we went 10th to 3rd at the Outlaw show earlier in the year. Like I thought he was really going to be a guy that was going to do a lot more on his prelim night. And every time it honestly looked like he was making bad decisions, and I felt like their car wasn't good. And then all of a sudden it's like their car suddenly got good, and he was making awesome decisions. And he looked like the Kofoid I expected to see. And he actually kind of alluded to it a little bit, in some of his post-race stuff. Like he felt like he was doing some wrong stuff. He felt like their car was off a little bit. And I didn't really expect them to struggle that bad. But coming into that night, like, you know, he had to get in. Well, he got in through the B, and I still didn't think he was going to get that far up through there. And then, man, 19th to second, like, and man, he was coming. Like, I thought that I really thought that he was going to struggle to even get out of that, get up maybe to 10th, maybe. I really did think that, because I just didn't see any speed out of him. And then, man, he just looked like he started putting it all together. Like, it's almost like he forgot what he was doing when they were there earlier in the year, and then suddenly he figured it out. But, man, he did a phenomenal job after that. And that feature, it was – I don't know at what point, like, it was just hunger that he had or what it was, but that was the Kofoid I'm used to seeing. And then it's just like he turned it up 2 or 3 notches from there.
So we're going to do a little slight early talking shit. One thing I am sick of seeing is a limping race car be reinserted into a lineup. Generally, I've seen this with flat tires. I can remember World Finals where Delansky was left out to restart with a flat tire while running second in a race. I saw another guy limp with a flat tire. It's always ended badly when someone is limping and they let them restart in their spot. What was your guys' take on the Matson situation? Because please, Chase, if there's one thing I'd love to see High Limit do, or any series, like, this needs to be addressed. I'd love to see, like, we're putting guys at risk. In the Delansky case back at World Finals, it led to a wreck. In this case, it led to a pile of people just getting shit restarts and bottled up. I would love to see series implement some sort of rule that lets them get past that. What are your guys' thoughts? I'll start with you, Chase, on Carey's situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it either. I especially don't like it when I'm a fan in the stands and 3 restarts in a row, something happens and it slows the field down when things are, you know, getting interesting. So that was kind of annoying. And then, yeah, that one restart when he got going, and then I think it was Torgerson, you know, X-gamed off his rear tire, and it just jacked everybody up. I mean, I agree something can be changed with that. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, do you get 2 chances if your car don't run, then you go to the back, or you get 1 chance I don't really know how you would enforce it. I definitely think it's something to be looked into. It's kind of a weird spot to be in, I feel like, for a series to make that rule. Like, I don't know what the verbiage would be of that rule, but I agree it should be addressed, because that should have been a huge wreck on one of those restarts when Carey's car didn't get going. And, I mean, it was like bumper cars back behind him, everybody trying to get the speed. So I don't know what it would be, but I agree with you. I don't really I didn't like that very much.
Sam, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I actually kind of had a little insight to what happened there. Everybody thought he ran out of fuel, you know, when he broke his throttle pedal. So, like, he didn't even want the caution to come out. He said he'd already had the bell crank in his hand ready to go, and you could see where he actually sped back up. So I think they were a little premature on dropping the yellow in that situation. And then number 2 is, like, the earlier one where Macri got sent to the tail. It actually kind of screwed Macri, because he wasn't going to be a tail car. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the caution came out way too early in that situation. So it probably put him back a lot further than he needed to be too. I also thought there were some poor calls on starts. You know, we had a start like in my heat race where they put the guy on the pole back, and there was other starts where there would be a definite jump and then they not even move anybody on the row. So, like, I thought they were kind of inconsistent across the board there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why we're so quick to jump on these yellows. I don't know. Like, they weren't dangerous situations at the time, and they actually made them more dangerous by calling the yellow. So I don't know. Like, and then to let him, okay, and if you're the official, you literally let Matson sit out there twice, like, knowing he's probably not going to go. Why are we not making a concerted effort to say, okay, hey, 55, go to the work area or something. Like I really thought it was a dumb deal on their part.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say is I'm not throwing Kerry under the bus, because every time I've seen one of these limping cars and they've been given the opportunity to restart they're taking it. Like, I don't blame him for.
Yeah, no, it ain't his.
it.
No, if he's got a chance to maybe go, you're gonna go. I didn't blame him at all. I thought Knoxville should have done what they should have done and said, "Hey, 55 to the work area." I mean, you put the 17A car of Jack Anderson to the work area with no brakes. I mean, this isn't no different. And you clearly know there's a problem with his race car.
Yeah. So we got all the prelims out of the way. Now we're on to Saturday night. Tims dominated the Nationals, second youngest winner ever. Hadn't won a national level race. I'm trying to think back. Can anyone remember a time where that's happened, going back to, once again, why people maybe didn't take him seriously after his domination?
That's never happened. There's no way that's ever happened.
I don't think it's even close to happening.
No, not even close.
So what was the question?
A guy who hadn't won a national race but won the Knoxville Nationals.
No, it hasn't happened at the Nationals, but Tyler Courtney did it at the Kings Royal. So I guess that's kind of close.
Yeah. That's
not exactly the same.
That's why we got you on here, Chase.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Courtney's win was that situation either. I felt like Courtney had won earlier in the year. But yeah, just so many weird things out of that. And the other one I had is, I remember Knoxville used to always want track regulars to win the Knoxville Nationals. Jesus, when's the last track regular to win a Nationals before Tims? I'm trying
Would
to
it
think.
Would it been a Lasowski or a McCarl?
Well, Lasowski, when he won the Nationals, was already on the Outlaw Tour with Beef Packers. And then someone said Wolfgang in 85.
85, that's what I heard, yeah.
But my memory isn't of him running Knoxville Weekly at the time. My memory is of going off his book. I thought he was running Pennsylvania regularly, but was clearly the fastest car in the country. So maybe I've got that wrong. So if someone could set me straight there in the comments on YouTube or Spotify or something. But man, it's been a long. If we're calling Wolfgang the last regular to win there, man, that's another impressive thing that Ryan did. I just think there's a lot of impressive things he accomplished there. And then it led me to a question, which is this the biggest upset in Knoxville Nationals history? Chase, I feel like you're probably the better guy to go to off the top of your head for this, just because you run numbers and stuff like that. Do you think it was the biggest upset?
I would say yes. The one guy that a lot of people brought up as maybe a close second, or maybe was the bigger upset, and I wasn't around then, so I'm not sure if it was or not, but a lot of people said Bobby Allen when he won, and I watched the video of it. I guess so that could be one of them. I wouldn't say Jason Johnson was an upset. I mean, sure, he ruined the streak that Donny had going on. I guess in that sort of sense it was an upset, but I feel like Jason Johnson was a well-established driver that won plenty of races before that. So I guess Bobby Allen would be the biggest, or maybe equal to Ryan Tims, but to me, Ryan Tims is the biggest upset of the Nationals of all time. And I'm not a historian on the Nationals, but that's just my take on it.
Sam, in your opinion, was it the biggest upset in Nationals history?
I think so, for a lot of reasons. 18 years old, no experience at the Nationals like the other field, like a lot of the other field has. Usually this is a race where some guys have some experience, win this race. Like these were all reasons why you weren't picking Tims to win. Yeah, we thought he would set a toward pace early and maybe fade, which is, a common thing for a guy that doesn't have experience at that level, right? All these guys that seem to succeed at the Nationals, they've got a lot of time there usually to some extent, and he has some time for sure, but not the time that these other guys have. Even look at the car, for example. The cars last year was their first year at the Nationals with that car. Am I right?
No,
I think
Boguski actually made the A-Main the year before he ran.
Yeah, but I'm saying like at the Nationals, they've only been going there a couple years with that car, correct?
Yeah, they made it twice with Boguski and once with Tims.
That's my point. Like even with the car, like their amount of time of going to this race isn't a long time either. So there's a lot of factors here. It's not just Ryan Tims, it's the race car. Man, there's guys that go their whole lives that don't even have a chance to get in the A-Main. There's guys that go their whole lives that don't even have an opportunity to maybe even try to run top 10 in this race. And these guys go out and they don't just win the race, they dominate every lap, every bit of it. Like, most guys will have like at the halfway segment, okay, we swap tires, we do this, whatever, we add fuel, we get a set of tires that maybe don't match up as good on the second set. Man, he ran his fastest lap on lap 29. Guys are slowing down by then. They're still getting faster. That's what I try to.
You looked this up. Explain how much faster he was.
And he's a half a second faster than anybody's lap the whole race. And I know for some fans, a half a second doesn't seem like much, but in a feature event, if there is a guy a half a second a lap faster than anybody's fastest lap, they are most definitely going to win, and they're going to win by a bunch. I mean, if you look at a half a second a lap for 10 laps, that's 5 seconds. So all I'm saying is there are so many variables that make this probably the biggest upset we've seen at this. Like, there wasn't going to be the normal person that would say, hey, man, Tims is going to go out and dominate this. I know there's this odd fan. Oh, yeah, I had him. I know we're going to have that guy.
We had Dom actually do it.
But, if you go and look at this deal, like even from their standpoint of their car, the short time it's been going to the Nationals, Tim's experience at the Nationals, like all this, just calculates a huge upset, and they didn't just. I mean, they knocked it out of the park, man, just by dominating the way they did. It's impressive, man. You cannot say anything negative about them at all as far as their execution and what they accomplished. It's really impressive.
So I don't feel comfortable talking about Knoxville Nationals pre-1990. And I'll take you through the upsets, in my opinion. People look back at the 1998 Danny Lasowski's first Knoxville Nationals win, and they go, of course, well, it was Danny Lasowski. At the time in 1998, Jack Hodenshield in the Pennzoil car had won every single Outlaw show they'd run there that year. He was starting off the front row. Lasowski was like 6th or 7th in points and had only won one race all year at Rolling Wheels or Canandaigua, one of the New York slick tracks. Even though he was rolling off third, and even though he had a great Nationals, and even though he was obviously excellent at Knoxville, that was not a year where people were picking Danny Lasowski to win the Nationals when he won in 98. In retrospect, he won a bunch more. But in 98, that was a shocking win. You mentioned Jason Johnson. I also agree. I don't think that's the upset people think it was. I remember my brother asking me before the Nationals, okay, if Schatz doesn't win, who's the guy that could do it? And I remember saying Jason Johnson, and I'm not saying a genius. I think some other people would have said that too. The one I thought one of you guys would bring up was Tim Schafer in 2010.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Because it was Craig. Was Craig Kinzer? Would you consider Craig Kinzer's an upset? Or was his best year of his entire career was 2005?
Yeah, like Braden McMahon was talking about that on Twitter. He's talking about a group chat. I'm guessing you were in that group chat.
I'm in like 6 group chats with Braden, but I was not in that one.
That one at the time, like I remember it vividly, that was not a surprise. Like Craig was viewed as one of the guys that could win it. I believe Schatz was running him down late and ran out of time. But now we look at it and go, holy shit, Craig Kinzer won the Knoxville Nationals. But at the time, he was viewed as one of the favorites to win that race. But Tim Schafer was such an upset that even when he restarted on Schatz's ass with 2 to go, people still didn't think Tim Schafer was going to win. No one was saying Tim Schafer might win this Knoxville Nationals going into that one. It was all Donny Schatz, Shane Stewart, Jason Myers. There was no one saying Tim Schafer. But I believe, Chase, you actually got it right with the 1990 Knoxville Nationals. And my reason for that is, and this is a thing I don't expect a lot of people to know that aren't older, at the time they were really experimenting with what they called grenade motors, which were motors that they were running like 3 or 4 nights and then they were done with them. And Bobby Allen, I mean, he'd had a great Nationals. He started in the second row. By no means was he considered a joke. But it was pretty much a given that Steve Kinser was going to dominate that race from start to last. If you probably polled 10 people probably would have told you Steve Kinser was going to win that race. And that race was actually very important historically because that is the race that killed the grenade motor. Like, Steve, at the drop of the green, immediately his motor went south. He fell through the field, fell to about 11th, drove back to 7th, then his motor blew. Mark Kinser then inherited the lead, and he was completely dominating, and he had it in the bag as well. He blew a motor and did one of the greatest snap case jobs of a guy being pissed off about losing the Nationals ever when he pulled in. And then Sammy was the third guy with a grenade, with what they were calling grenade motors or whatever at the time. And his was leaking oil. Sammy couldn't see. He's got the race in the bag, hits the wall down the backstretch, was driving with the spokes of his steering wheel. And when he'd actually passed Bobby, he'd taken away the bottom from Bobby, and Bobby was done. And then when Sammy hit the wall there, it put Bobby back in the lead. And that was the biggest upset to me. And I believe, because like I say, if you polled people, I think more people would have told you Ryan Tims would win than Bobby Allen would win in 1990. And it was important just in terms of getting people away from running these like 3 to 5 night motors. Like that race basically killed it. So I think if I had to say, I'd say 90 was the biggest upset. I think you got that one right, Chase. But there's been some pretty cool upsets. There's no denying that. The next question I had that I thought was an interesting question, because I've heard people go both ways, and I'll have you go on this, Chase. If you had $10,000 and you could only buy stock in Ryan Tims or Corey Day, who are you buying it in terms of sprint cars? Like, who's your guy out of those two?
I think right now to me it's an easy question, and I think it's easy Corey Day right now. I know Ryan Tims just won the Knoxville Nationals. Obviously, that's an incredible feat, but we just mentioned it's his only national touring win now, albeit it's the biggest race of the year. But what Corey Day's already done, 2 Gold Cups. I mean, that's pretty tough to do in a ripe old age of 18 or 19, whatever he is. The Dirt Cup, Trophy Cup. He's won outlaw shows in Knoxville. He won, I think, 8 races last year with High Limit. He's won a couple of other outlaw shows around the country as well. To me, it's Corey Day right now. They're very close to the same age, and Corey Day has accomplished more in a sprint car than what Ryan Tims has so far. And Corey Day's even accomplished a lot in the midget as well. Chili Bowl prelim night winner. He's won Indiana Midget Week shows. He's won. I think he won a race with USAC in California last year or something. So, to me, it's Corey Day. But I don't know. I think Ryan Tims had that one stretch where he was just on. He got that wreck at Lincoln, PA there a few years ago, and there for it seemed like a long time. He could not figure out how to drive the sprint car. The car wasn't fast, or if he wasn't fast, I don't know what it was. But they were slow for a long time, and we got in the lead big car, and things turned around quickly for him. Corey Day, I feel like ever since he got in the 410, he's a threat to win every single night. So if I had $10,000, I'd buy a lot of Corey Day stock right now.
Sam, what are your thoughts?
Exactly the same. Chase is 100% right. There's no doubt coming off of the Knoxville Nationals, Tims is on a high. He's going to be, and he's been fast in that car, not just at Knoxville. Like he's had speed all over, but Day is more of a proven proven product. I mean, that's where my money would be for sure.
Yeah.
Tim's stock price did go up though a little bit this week.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and how fickle are we that he can win the Knoxville Nationals and we're taking Day? But the argument I gave to people is, what do you think Corey Day would do if you gave him a year at Knoxville? What do you think he'd have done in that feature if you gave that team a year?
I had Corey Day as the dark horse winner of the Nationals this year. I think Sam mentioned Schuhart was his pick, but I had Corey Day. I mean, he won the Knoxville June race 2 years in a row, and he was third last year. I thought he was going to be the guy to beat this time, but things didn't go his way in the second half. But a year at Knoxville for Corey Day, I think, would be dangerous for the rest of those guys come August next year.
So we kind of talked about this earlier. Gravel, did he have enough to beat Tims? I think we've beaten that. So the next topic I had was your counterpart from the other series, Connor Wade, from the World of Outlaws, he wrote me and actually wrote a pretty detailed message. He asked me why we haven't seen a pass for the lead since 2022 at the Knoxville Nationals. I think there's a bunch of reasons, but I'll let you fire away with that one first, Sam.
I mean, bottom line is, look at all these races that we go to now, or we see and we watch these half miles. Our rules package limits us pretty heavily, and there's not a lot of passes at a lot of half miles that we go to. So, like when we go to Knoxville and we've had 3 days to determine the best starting field that you could possibly have, you already have the fastest guys in the field, because you're going through a qualifying night. It's not like getting lucky to go out early and set quick time and then, maybe line up in the right heat, whatever, on a certain night. Like, you have to earn points throughout the whole night. So there's never a guy that's sitting in that field in the top 8, top 10 that doesn't belong in there. Like, every guy has earned their spot. And passing these days is not something we see a lot of anyway. So now at this race, unless we're putting Kyle Larson on row 3 or David Gravel on row 3 or a car that shouldn't be up front, like, unless that ever happens, like, this is going to be the reality of this race going forward for a while. I'm not saying we're not going to see a pass, but the passing is going to be limited. Like we've said, oh man, these races are snooze fest. Well, they kind of are. And it's not because of the racetrack. Like, they've tried lots of things, but when you put the 10 best guys and you've tallied up their points from qualifying, heat races, a feature run, and you line them up in that feature, it's really hard for guys to get movement. It just is. I mean, it's dirty air is probably as tough as it's ever been. These guys know how to use their air really well to block advances behind them. It's gonna be a hard thing, and I think it's something we're gonna probably honestly get used to seeing, unless rules package changes, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Before I go to you, Chase, there's a point I brought up on one of our post-race pods, which was that I don't think people realize how little the guys up front get past. Like, Sam's made 3 Knoxville Nationals. I've made 2 of them with him. We were in also ran. We never finished better than 14th. And I think I heard someone refer to it earlier. I heard it's on another podcast or show. In those Nationals where Sam made the Nationals and we were in also ran, we literally did not get past our whole week until the Saturday night A main. Like, your 15th place starter in the Knoxville Nationals probably hasn't been passed all night. That's one thing I don't think people realize is, like, until the Saturday night A main, most of your lineup has not been passed in competition that whole weekend. So that's one thing. The other thing is I think we've been damn lucky to get some of the A mains we've gotten when you have lineups like that. Now, Chase, I'll let you address your address the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys both make good points. I just feel like the last 2 years before, 23 and 24, I mean, you put the best driver in the world on the pole of a sprint car race on a half mile with all the dirty air and all the other things. He's coming in just red hot, especially last year. I mean, that's just a recipe for him to. I mean, he's Kyle Larson. It's going to be so hard to pass him. And that's at every racetrack. But you do it at Knoxville, where there's already so much dirty air and all that good stuff. He gets around there so well. I mean, it's not a shocking thing to me that he led all 50 laps 2 years in a row. Now, for Ryan Tims to lead all 50 laps, I mean, he's been the best car at Knoxville all year. He's won the most races. Obviously, they've got a setup to get around that place pretty well. And, I mean, maybe it was just a magical night for him to not put a wheel in the wrong place and hit his marks for 50 straight laps and nobody had anything for him. I don't know. But I thought the race for second was really good, which is kind of weird because Tims was so far away. There's no way there's any dirty air messing up Macedo and Rico and all those guys, but they're still having a really good battle for second. I don't know. I just think it was the perfect recipe for Tims to lead all 50 laps. Honestly, I feel like if you would have put Carson Macedo on the pole and he jumped out front, I honestly do not think he would have led all 50 laps. I just think it was the perfect combination of Tims just having the race of his life, having a really good car on a half mile where dirty air is so it's just such a big part of it, So, I mean, the race for second is sure it was a snoozer for the lead, but the race for second, those last 10, 15 laps was fantastic. Obviously, there's plenty of passing with Gravel going 21st to third and other guys coming up through there. And, I don't know. I just think it was a perfect situation this year. And then obviously the last 2 years before that, I mean, it's Kyle Larson. I mean, it's going to be tough to pass him anywhere, especially on a track with so much dirty air.
And to add to that, I don't think it's the track. Like, I might be off by a year, but I think in 2 of those years, Gravel was able to come from the 11th row. I might be off. It might have been Gravel in 22 when he did it, but I think in 2 of those years where we had no pass for the lead, the track was good enough that a guy could come from the 11th row to the podium.
Gravel
for sure.
Gravel battled Schatz in 22 for the lead, so that must have been I think 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. So now we're out of our Knoxville stuff, and we're now down to silly season, which apparently is like all the second half of the year. Spencer Bayston is now out of the Jason Myers 14. Chase, he's obviously a high limit guy. You're obviously the high limit announcer. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I hate to see it. Spencer's a friend of mine, has been for a long time, and he's just it's been a tough few years for him, man. I don't think Spencer Bayston forgot how to drive a sprint car. I really don't. I think that he knows how to drive a sprint car. I think those guys had some engine issues there at the beginning of the year, and we saw them selling engines in the last week, and they've got some other engines coming in, trying something different. Obviously, we know how important the crew chiefs are, and I think, Shane Bowers obviously worked really well with Corey Day last year, and maybe him and Corey Day and Spencer Bayston are not the same driver. They don't drive the same way, and so maybe whatever Shane Bowers was doing with the car for Corey Day just didn't work with Spencer Bayston. I have no idea, but a lot of people are MFing Bayston that he can't drive, and all this other stuff, and I've seen him win at Bristol, holding off Kyle Larson and one hell of a duel. I mean, I've seen this guy wheel a race car and win. A couple of, one at Port Royal, one at Brad Doty Classic. I mean, he's won on all types of different racetracks. I can't let myself think that Spencer Bayston forgot how to drive a race car, and now here he is out of this car halfway through the year, which sucks a lot too, because you order a bunch of merchandise and all this stuff that goes into it, and then you lose your ride at Knoxville. He knew it was coming. It sounds like for a few weeks, like that was kind of the plan. But I'm not a fan of it. I don't think anybody really is a fan of it. It's a tough year, no doubt. 11th in points is not what they were expecting. So, I don't know what else to say. I want to get it across that this guy did not forget how to drive a sprint car over the last year or two. Like, it just didn't happen.
Sam, I know you feel really strongly about this in terms of like the top guys are very, very close. So I feel like I know your answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's, like any of these things, like I think there's a lot of really good race car drivers out there, and I feel like time is what people need. Like I say this all the time. There's a lot of guys that can get the job done. There are. Spencer is one of those guys where he's shown that, he can. I mean, I remember right when he got in the 5 car, I mean, he waxed everybody at Port Royal. One of the first nights I ever saw him drive that car. The Bristol race I remember distinctly. It's not like the guy can't do it. I mean, I know maybe his stock isn't high right now, but I think it's like any of these guys. Like if you don't get him in the right situation and the right situation for them, it might be the right situation for another guy, and you don't give the team enough time for success, then it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter who the guy is. I mean, and I really feel like that's something that a lot of teams are. I've told you for a while, I thought that we were going to have some blow-ups because we've got so much money involved in these top national level rides now. Like used to when I started driving, there were like 3 teams that had the money to go compete and that knew they could win the championship. Now there's several teams on each side that spend the money. They all have the money. They all have the equipment. They have good personnel. Like they're not lacking anything. And these owners know they're not lacking anything financially. So then when suddenly we're not winning or we're not doing what we're supposed to be, what we think is supposed to be happening, these owners are jumping and saying, okay, well, we got to make a change. And I honestly think all these changes are too fast. I just do. Like these quick changes, if you've been in the car for a half a year, how much time can you possibly have together to be successful? It's not a lot. And I'm not faulting either side. I mean, it's the owner's money. They can do what they want, but I am saying like for any of these things to work, that'd be like saying, okay, we take Garrett Williamson and say he was having a worse year than what they expected him to have, right? All right, shut it down. It's over, right? Well, that's not right. It's not fair to him. He needs the time. All these guys have to have the time. You start a new gig, I don't know, like imagine Gio going a half a year with the KCP car and they say, no, we're done. I don't think it's fair. And in this situation, I think you have to give stuff more time. It's just my honest take on it.
Well, and like, let's just remember that what's today? Today's Wednesday when we're recording this. 4 days ago, he was one of the top 24 drivers and cars in the entire country. He made the Knoxville Nationals on Saturday night. And I don't know if many people expected him to, and he still did. That just goes to show that he is a good driver. It's just like you said, I mean, you got to be in the right situation. Like a good example, I feel like, is Ashton Torgerson in the Shark Racing car. I mean, those guys hit it off immediately, and they've been fast right out of the gate. And then there's other ones that you could think of that they get together and just things don't work. And I guess the best example of that right now is Spencer in the Jason Myers 14.
Yeah, and then of course we're saying this at a time when Ryan Tims hops in that 10 and just rips right away.
That's another good example of it. I mean, he's been rolling in that thing ever since he got into it, And from what I've been told, Spencer's he ain't gonna be out for long.
There's a few rides available right now.
I've heard he's in a car on Friday in Tulare. And
yeah, I've heard the same.
Lastly, the big shock, the big news. I had to watch the Raudman rundown the other day to get his takeaway on this. Donny Schatz is out of the 15. Shocking, but not shocking, in my opinion. What do you think, Chase?
That's a good way to put it. I mean, like I said in that video, it was like I felt like we all kind of thought it was going to happen, but then it didn't, and it didn't, and it didn't for multiple years. 2 years, I feel like we kind of thought it was going to happen. And then you're thinking this year, okay, well, at the end of the year, it's going to be over. And then, but a part of your mind at the same time is like, oh, they'll probably just run it out and just keep going. And then all of a sudden, I'm about to, like, when this happened, I'm sitting there recording the video, or I'm putting my camera into my tripod to record a video about Ryan Tims, and a Facebook message comes across, and the guy said, hell just froze over. And that's all I saw. And I was like, Donnie's out. Like, it didn't even say Donny Schatz. It just said hell has frozen over. And I was like, holy shit, Donnie's done. I opened my phone up, there it is. And I ran back into my living room, erased my whiteboard, and wrote something about Donnie, but I'm still speechless about it because that's all I've known. I mentioned in the video I was 13, whatever it was, in 2007, and that's all I've known is Donny Schatz with Tony Stewart Racing. So, I didn't know until the Sprint Car Unlimited article came out that, it sounds like he was fired. I thought he left.
Yes.
But he was fired from the car, which is even crazier, I think. And then reading the comments that Tony said and the comments that Donnie said, and it just didn't seem like it was the greatest split of all time between the two of them. But certainly the end of an era. There's no question about that. What they were able to accomplish is probably never going to be seen again. Gravel's trying to, but I just don't think he'll ever get to the numbers that Donnie was able to put together. So I am very curious to see where he goes. As of 11:45 p.m. Eastern time, we still don't know what he's going to do. It's still mind-boggling to me that this actually happened. Even though we thought it was going to happen, it actually did happen.
Yeah, Sam, what are your thoughts? I think we kind of had a hint of this at Volusia, and we kind of downplayed it, but Tony was basically open that Donnie was not happy.
Yeah, I think it started pretty fast, and I think it goes back to, Ricky and Donnie, kind of splitting or whatever. And I think, that was the undoing. We see that, like, those guys had so much success together. And who gives a shit whose fault it was or whose fault it wasn't. Everybody knows those two guys together were about as lethal of a combination as you'll ever see. And I think as a team owner, and Daryl's alluded to this before, and I'm still in some of his stuff, but I feel like you just make it happen. Like, hey, man, no, Donnie, Ricky's the guy, and Ricky, Donnie's the guy. And I think you just make it happen. And I think maybe that's where the fault was. I think Tony's the type of guy that wanted those guys to be happy. And obviously, maybe it was never going to be that way. I could go back and hear people talk about, man, Ricky's yelling at Donnie and Donnie's yelling at Ricky. But you know what? They still won. And that's what they're there to do. And I don't know, like, if I'm the car owner at that point in time, it's like, hey, man, we've got it right here. Like, everything we need is right here. We're not separating that. And the moment that happened, I really felt like that was, you still saw Donnie do Donnie things. You still saw him win the Nationals without Ricky. You still saw Donnie win races, but it wasn't as consistent. We all know how good Ricky is. Look what he's done with Rico's program. And I think for Donnie to get what he's been getting out of his race car this year is very impressive to me. I've seen them struggle. And, those aren't cars that Donnie's used to driving. And he's getting a lot more out of those cars than I think a lot of guys would. I think he still has a lot of fire left in him. I think he still wants to prove to the world that he can get it done, especially after the abysmal season he's had. This is not like Schatz to struggle the way he has struggled. So I feel like, I have no clue where he's going, what he's going to do. There are hints that he's going to be at the next race, but maybe that's hearsay. I don't know. I want to see, like, for his sake, I want to see him have another go, and I want to see the Donny Schatz I used to see. That's what I want to see. I feel like we deserve that. He deserves that. And I truly think Tony's deal will be done at the end of the year. I think the sprint car program will be done and terminated at the end of the year. Because I want to say, I feel like that program was running because Donny was there, to be honest. And why else would it be running to this day? So I feel like Tony did Donny a solid to keep it going for Donny. And I think now that they're not making any headway anymore, I think it was honestly the best thing for both of them, to be honest.
Well, if no one has anything to add, I think that's everything we had on our list. It's time to talk shit now. And I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. But I don't know, we're talking shit. One thing I noticed this year was I couldn't believe how mean-spirited and how quick fans were at the Knoxville Nationals to get on drivers.
It's not just the Knoxville Nationals. It's all the time.
Well, we're going to get there. There's not Donny Schatz prime. He's won 8 million Knoxville Nationals in a row and he gets booed. There's the I'm sick of you winning booed. This year, I feel like it's booing coming from a really shitty place. People told Sam he has Larson's balls in his mouth. Well, let me ask you, fans. How many of you guys had Larson's balls in your mouth that you were that mad at David Gravel's comments about Kyle Larson? I think we might have had it wrong the whole time. I think you guys had his balls in his mouth way more than Sam did. That David Gravel's comments caused you to hate him? And it is a hate. That is not a mean spirit, we just want Gravel to lose. He's been winning a lot. You hate him right now. And there is no logic for that. Half of you that are blaming Gravel for the crash are blaming Gravel because you hate him. And you have no reason for it, because he made one comment about getting raced hard one night. Do you know how many shittier things racers do in a season and don't get hated for it? And you're hating Gravel for that. The shit I saw written to JJ, about Brian Brown. Jesus, why is everyone so quick to hate on people? And I thought there was a really, really telling moment during JJ's interview. Most people have told me they thought JJ's interview was shitty, it came from a bad place. Chase, I thought it was interesting that you loved the interview. But what I thought was really telling about JJ's interview was at first he starts talking and he says, man, I can't see the right rear. And the place just starts booing.
Yeah.
And you need to know they're booing right then at that answer, which we all know is true. And the place just starts booing him mercilessly. And of course you have to have your context of this is Brian Brown country. But what I thought was so interesting was when JJ ended it and said, and if any of you have a problem, come down to my pits. All you booers shut the up immediately. Every single one of you shut up, and the reason was because he just put it on you and said, would you say that to my face? And you all shut up instantly. Every one of you did. It's it's forever on Dirt Vision. You can't deny it. You showed what cowards you were being when you decided you wanted to hate JJ for it. So I don't even expect you guys to talk. You can talk if you want. The only thing I have to add to this is if fans are going to keep talking to drivers like that, expect more Cody Dara great flip situations in the future. You guys don't have to say shit to this. You don't have to get dragged in with me. But if you want to say your thoughts, feel free.
All I'm going to say is if it was Matt Wasman that ramped off his right rear, they wouldn't have been booing him. They wouldn't even have cared.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100%.
They wouldn't have cared.
And Sam and I would have. We love Doc.
I thought it was crazy to me. On both sides, like I say, I don't, in this situation, I wasn't saying, oh man, it's Brian's fault. Oh, it's JJ. I'm an innocent bystander in this situation. And even the shitty stuff, okay, say JJ was getting booed. for every 3 comments that JJ had coming his way, Brown had 1 or 2 saying, "Oh yeah, Brown's all," like just some negative shit, man, and it just blew me away, like how cutthroat fans are. I mean, dude, don't get it twisted. I get shit said about me. If ASCS makes a post about me, there's going to be 1 or 2 guys that write something down there, and it cracks me up, like how these people can be. But like, that is part of our sport. The David Gravel stuff, like I feel like he rides off of some of that. Like I think he likes it to a certain degree. He kind of wants to be the villain, but like I don't feel like he's a good villain. He doesn't. Like when Aaron Reitzel wants to be a villain, like he can pretty well play the villain. But
my belief is Gravel doesn't want to be the villain, but everyone's telling him to play into it, and it's not natural. It's not natural at all.
And he is playing into it, but like I feel like he needs to take the high road on it. To be honest, I don't think it's like for what he's accomplishing and what he's doing. Like what he needs to realize is like, dude, you're it. Like regardless, like to me, the reason a guy like Kyle Larson's trying to ruffle you up is because he knows you're it. Like he knows y'all's team is the best team in the country, night in, night out. And if there's one guy that can mess with him, it probably would be Kyle Larson of all people. But I think David needs to take a different approach on this. Like I think he needs to take the high road, and David races about as clean as anybody I've seen. And to be the guy that's winning all the races that he's winning and running as good as he's running and racing guys as clean as he's racing guys, I mean, I have a lot of respect for that. I really do. I very seldom see David blatantly take a guy out or blatantly do something wrong. I think he's usually well calculated with his racing, and I don't think the being the villain is the thing for him. I think he should take a different road on it, because I feel like he's better than that.
Chase, do you have anything to add?
I agree. I mean, the fans are ruthless. That's what I'll add to that. They are just ruthless. So I don't have anything else to add on to that. I do have some shit to talk.
Okay, I'm just gonna give one final line on this. I'll also, like, someone confronted Dom about Sam's comments about saying a fan was a fucking idiot. And that guy took it personally. That wasn't a guy we were referring to. We were referring to a certain type of fan. And then he went on to the rant about, I've put this much money into this, I've done this, I've done that. Yes. When a fan buys a $57 ticket or whatever the hell the ticket is to the Knoxville Nationals, yeah, you do get the right to boo and cheer who you want as much as you want. But these drivers have also invested their entire lives in it. So just remember that. Food for thought. Now, Chase, if you got something, let go.
I got 2 things.
Hell
I'll start
yes.
with one. In the comments of the video I did about Donny, I'm just so tired of reading all these comments about people saying that he's old, washed up, and needs to go retire in a rocking chair. I am tired of reading that. He's 48 years old. He's not 75. Okay, he's 48 years old. Steve Kinzer won an Outlaw show when he was like 58, 59. Donny Schatz is 48. He does not need to retire. He's not old. He didn't forget how to drive. He won 5 races last year. He knows how to drive a race car. I'm just tired of people thinking and writing him off because he's had a bad year with a crew chief that is a first-year crew chief, right? And all the other things going on with the engines and the shocks and all that stuff. Donny Schatz knows how to drive a race car still, and he's not old. He's 48. Steve Kinzer was 10 years older than when he won his last Outlaw show. And I was just tired of I think that video had 300 comments, and I'd say half of them were people saying, yeah, it's time for him to just, retire and, go run a late model now and again. I'm like, Jesus. I couldn't even reply to all of them. I just quit. I was like, it's no use. There's no use in trying to tell these people.
When we post a video, we might get 9 comments on a good day. So screw you, Chase. But
Well, that was
But
my
to-
best video of all time. That
but
was
to
the highest viewed video I ever had in my life.
but to back you up, I remember when Sam was on the Outlaw Tour, and everything was going good in terms of finances and stuff like that. We were plotting out like at what age, and Sam's like 23, 25 at the time. And we were basically plotting out that Sam would not be in his sprint car prime until he was like 42 to 44. When Shane Stewart was doing all that rock star, like he's and all of a sudden now he was like 42 when that happened. When Jason Johnson won the Knoxville Nationals, he was like 42 to like 45, I want to say. In the eight, like these people think like 48 is old. We have so many guys that were winning into their 50s, especially the high level guys. We had Hod, we had Steve, we had Sammy. Like I think Stevie Smith might have won into his 50. Like God, we have so much evidence that like you don't start falling off until you're like 55 to 60, and that's if you lived a hard life. Like, yes, it is laughable.
Sammy Swindell just made 2 A mains of the Nationals. He's 71. I mean, come on. Donnie's got plenty of time left. Plenty. Oh, I will mention, though, that one thing on that same subject is obviously the racing has changed so much. It's so much more aggressive and way more on the wheel, which is not obviously Donnie's style. He's more of a patient guy, more of a calculated style of racing than I feel like it's evolved a lot. So, but still, I think he's capable of winning still 5 Outlaw shows a year, under the right circumstances.
I think that's minimum. I think he's in a car, he's happy, and he's winning 10.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think he still can do it. The other thing I wanted to talk shit about, and it's a brief one, was when is Sam going to get a new profile picture on Twitter? He had hair in that one he has.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the inside pool on this.
My wife gives me shit about it too. You're not the only one.
That profile was set up in 2011 by me.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I basically was like explaining to Sam, like, hey, Sam, there's this thing called Twitter. You probably need to get involved in it. And Sam, if you know Sam, he's not a big computer or phone guy. And he's like, okay, set me one up. And I don't know how. You set me one up and I'll roll with it. So I set him one up. It was set up. I think we were staying at Brian Monteith's crew's house.
Yeah, probably.
Spuds and Kayla, shout out to you guys. And I did it then, and I will say I do think Sam is an avid Twitter guy. Like, I do think Sam peruses Twitter fairly often. But if you're looking for posts or updates, he is not the guy to go to. He is not the guy that's like, when he posts an ad for like one of his cars to sell, he usually generally will like come to me for help, although he's starting to get that down. But he does use Twitter in terms of watching it. But if you're expecting him to do a bunch of stuff with his profile, it's not happening.
Yeah,
if he had to change his profile picture right now, it would probably take a phone call.
Yeah, my wife, she roasts my ass all the time about it. Yeah. She does.
Yeah, that's like,
all I've got.
That is like a 14-year-old picture. Or a 9-year-old picture, sorry.
It's old.
Yeah.
14, yeah.
Yeah, 14.
Maybe older.
Yeah.
No, and I agree on the Donny deal. Like, man, people don't realize how next level he is. He's such a smart racer. He's just I feel like he's carrying every bit of that car this year. And I feel, I think him having Ricky all those years definitely did help him. There's no doubt about that. Like you take Ricky away from Rico doesn't look near as good as he does right now, but Donnie always got it done. Like he doesn't have 300 plus wins for no reason. He doesn't have, they just posted a stat. He has 26. It was 26 Knoxville A main starts, 11 wins. His average start was like 5 point something. His average finish is like 3 point something. he's unbelievably talented, and for people to say anything like that, they clearly have no clue. He is one of the best to do it. A lot of these guys on Twitter don't call him the GOAT for no reason. He's the man, and I think he will redeem himself this year at some point. I hope he does. I think it would be good for him.
Yeah, on the High Limit podcast, we had Larson on before the Nationals, and he said we were asking him, like, who do you think is going to be, who's going to be the biggest challenger for you to not win 3 in a row? And he was like, probably Corey Day and David and Rico. And then at the end, he's like, and you can never count out Donny. I don't care what kind of year he's having. You can never count him out.
Sure.
Even
for sure.
When he's been just having the worst year of his career, you still can't count him out.
Yeah. And I think there's one thing worth adding to the Twitter thing is Sam was a big MySpace guy. If MySpace was still around, I think Sam would have been rocking it.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I think that's everything we got. Almost 2 hours, and I don't think we have to do a lot of editing. So thanks a lot, Chase, for filling in. Thanks, Sam, for doing this, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Peace out.